Hall of Records Akashic reading by Chief Little Summer. Our asteroid belt was once a planet called Meldek. The planet Meldek was a bright, luminous planet that orbited between Mars and Jupiter. It was by far the brightest planet in our solar system. Its vibration designated it as being in the final stages of its third density cycle. It was ready to go into fourth density harvest. The people were prosperous and genuinely happy. Their evolution had advanced far beyond the expectations of any third density endeavor. The other planets in this solar system viewed this entity as being red-orange. The energy field around Meldek pulled this red-orange color through itself. The planet orbiting between Mars and Jupiter was truly fascinating to watch. It was the most colorful planet in the entire system. This planet had been in existence for millions of years. Its third density civilization had evolved beyond need for many, many centuries. Essentially, the planet was about the size of our Earth Mother, and was divided into two great hemispheres that were separated by two great oceans of water. The red-orange reflected through the water, for this was an illumined planet. Meldek glowed and emanated internal light. The nights were strikingly beautiful for the distant observer, or for the 3 billion inhabitants that peacefully graced her beautiful surface. Karna and Vader, there was a great city on each continent that shared the name of the respective land mass. One was called Karna and the other was called Vader. Both cities were enormous and both expressed third density achievement. The fourth density vibration was well established in this final segment of her third density cycle. The two continents were also two countries. The country of Karna was ruled over by a man who was called Marduk. Though wearing a third density vehicle native to Meldek, Marduk was actually a fourth density entity. The leader of the continent/nation of Vader was a low fifth density entity who was called Lucifer. The planet itself was often called Lucifer, the son of the morning, the tongue of fire. These third density people wore bodies that were all identical to those native to Earth. Their fourth density harvest was anticipated with great joy. Unlike the Earth, the planet Meldek enjoyed a protective shield that blocked the negative radiations emitting from our defective sun. The sciences and technology of the Meldekians were far advanced to that of the Earth. They were even greater than the Atlanteans. Their spaceships were capable of making the voyage to Earth. Many visits were made during Atlantean times, and many more were made during what is often termed biblical times. Radiation poisoning happened in Vader. A radiation leak from a nuclear device occurred. This accidental leakage was of great proportions. The atmosphere above Vader was filled with poison. When it settled upon the populace, insanity quickly set in. Their leader, Lucifer, was not spared the calamity. In their imposed madness, the people of Vader accused the people of Karna and the leader Marduk as being the deliberate cause of their dilemma. The radiation poisoning was now infiltrating the continent of Karna, and the ability to reason was fast escaping all of the 3 billion inhabitants. The Galactic Confederation came forth in an attempt to suppress the rage of Lucifer, but his deranged mind would not accept their reasoning nor their pleadings. The exposure to radiation was now affecting even the plants and animals. Lucifer commanded that retaliation was now in order. The innocent ones of Karna rightfully blamed their plight on Vader, and instantly prepared for war. Lucifer deployed missiles, armed with hydrogen warheads, aimed at the peoples of Karna. Simultaneously, Karna retaliated. The Galactic Confederation pleaded with both sides, but their insanity was too great for anybody to listen. The Galactic Confederation could not intervene, for the law of free will would be circumvented. In horror, they stood helplessly and watched. The living hydrogen did indeed accomplish that was predicted. The horrific chain reaction was achieved, as the two mighty oceans exploded. Meldek exploded in a fiery flash of light that momentarily resembled the light of our noble sun. The planet was reduced to asteroids, gravel, and dust. The red-orange dust drifted far and wide through the solar system. The force field rings of Saturn, once invisible, now became brilliantly illumined, as the dust of Meldek was captured and collected amongst the rings. The red-orange dust also settled upon the dormant surface of Mars, and that entity glows red even to this day. Some of the Meldekian dust found its way to our own planet Earth and infiltrated our waters. And the rivers ran red as if they were blood, quotes ancient holy works. Karna invader, Meldek/Lucifer, was no more. The asteroid belt remains. But there was a survivor. Meldek had a moon, and the moon was called Melona. Now Melona had an atmosphere and water, and she supported second density. Melona is about the size of our own moon, and is a miniature of Meldek. Third density can survive quite nicely there. There were Meldekians who had journeyed to Melona prior to the death of their planet. These ones, though thoroughly traumatized, survived. Their descendants survive even today, as Melona wanders her way through the maze of rubble in the asteroid belt. 3 billion entities live with the guilt, the trauma, the knowledge, that they alone are responsible for the death of their beloved home, their planet, the shining one, the pride of our solar system, the magnificent, the majestic, the beautiful, Meldek. Meanwhile, back on Earth, there was an expedition of Meldekians that had stationed themselves on the land that we call Mesopotamia. This group of men was led by a man named Marduk. This was the same Marduk that was the leader of the nation continent, Karna. Marduk and his men stood horrified, as they watched their ancestral home flash brilliantly, and then exhaust itself into a nothingness. Without speaking, each of the men knew that they were marooned. The trauma, the shock, cannot be described. There was no contact with the survivors on the moon Melona. They did not know if their moon continued to exist, or if there were survivors. There was ample fuel in their rockets for their spacecraft to return to Melona, but supposing it no longer existed, there would not be enough fuel for them to then return to Earth. They elected to stay and accept their fate. In their craft, they could travel all around the planet Earth. The Meldekians had accomplished this many times in the past, even when Atlantis yet stood in all her glory. They could accommodate themselves any place they chose. The land of the Sumerians, now called Sumerians, was selected by their leader Marduk. There were no Meldekian women included in this expedition, and this handful of males was now all that was left of a once mighty race, and a great civilization. Marduk pondered the situation to mate with Earth women. That would produce half-breeds, and in a few generations, the noble bloodlines of the Meldekian would run out. Yet, the Earth female was all that was available. Assessing his situation as desperate, Marduk set forth a strict plan for line breeding. He personally selected the choice Sumerian females as candidates. Careful records were kept. The woman agreed and his men mated with the selected females. A new race. Marduk he himself never participated in the breeding program, he closely supervised it. A new race of people had now been established in the land of the Sumerians. The original Meldekians were more advanced and therefore senior to native Earthlings. Their meticulously created descendants were also the same. Marduk and his survivors taught their descendants all that they could so that this new race of men might somehow survive on a harsh planet called Earth. After the death of the planet Meldek, and sometime during the course of the breeding program, a calendar was set forth by Marduk. This calendar had its beginnings 3761 BC. And this calendar is in use today. It is called the Hebrew calendar. Marduk was never informed, nor did he understand, the reasons behind the cruel and unusual behavior patterns of second and third density life here on Earth. Earth was of a lesser vibration where suffering, sorrow and frustration are the teachers. The prime reason for Earth's hostile nature was other than our defective sun, but this was not yet discovered. The original Meldekians never got used to this course of this vibration. The new race was in its early stages while their founders were growing older. The Meldekian normally lived for several centuries, but Earth life was extracting a premature toll on them. Though surface life was traditional, the prevailing conditions of the sun left much to be desired. At first the history records were preserved through writing. Continuous movement caused a loss and displacement of many of the documents. Taking their cue from the Aborigines, the Jews begun to sing the history. The plan had Meldek survived, in 5,000 or 6,000 years from now, the largest fourth density positive harvest in this sector of our Milky Way galaxy would have taken place. The Earth's unharvestable would have been taken to the etheric plane of Meldek, and under those positive, love vibrations, a great number of Earthlings could have made their fourth density harvest. This was the overall plan, but of course, it didn't work out like that. Lucifer, but what of Lucifer, the former light-bearer, the love-bearer, the ruler of Vader, on a planet that was often called by his name, the illumined one, the shining star? What became of Lucifer? The entity Lucifer, though wearing a third density body, was actually low fifth density. His noble body was destroyed during the explosion of his planet, just like everybody and everything else. The accidental radiation poisoning that was released into the atmosphere of Meldek affected this one severely. As the contaminated dust fell, it seared the minds of all. All the negative qualities, greed, envy, hatred, jealousy, revenge, were thoughts that flooded his brain. Marduk was safe, but stranded on a barbaric planet called Earth. Lucifer envied him with all the jealous hate he could muster. He chose to see Marduk as the source of his dilemma and ensuing demise, even though he was millions of miles away at the time. Marduk was the rival, the competition, in his agonizing, mindless insanity. Lucifer set out in earnest to avenge his demise. He called. Orion answered. Now with Orion's instruction and assistance, Lucifer, still crazed by the radiation, sought, found and accepted the power required to accomplish his desires. A positive fifth density entity had now turned negative service to self. In the history of this galaxy, this was the first time such a thing had ever happened. Orion was overjoyed and immediately adopted Lucifer as his son. He would later be known as the only begotten Son of God. Lucifer and Orion called themselves God, attempted to infiltrate the minds of man. Orion would serve as their jealous god whom they could fear until their hearts were content. Orion offered the service of his only begotten son, Lucifer. Izu, a high fourth density wanderer, a stranger in these parts of the solar system. He noted the captured minds of the Jews and knew the disaster that would follow. He elected to incarnate as a Jew with the express purpose to wreak havoc with the leaders of the Sanhedrin, and thusly awaken the Jewish people to their hazardous condition and situation. Izu was not all that appreciated by the Jews, and certainly not by Orion or his loyal son Lucifer. Try as he may, Izu was having considerable difficulty in accomplishing his mission. At approximately age 30, during the baptism, Izu left his body, and a transcendental soul, as the Christ, entered therein and finished out the final 3 years of that incarnation. Orion took a holiday and Lucifer was thoroughly disgusted.